Well, I finally got this book released by Starr Daily in the mail today. I had to order the book myself. This man who wrote this book right here, Dr. George C. Ritchie, he was a psychiatrist. He believed this book was so good. He would give prescriptions to buy this book because it would help people's souls. By Dr. George C. Ritchie, a man who says he died when he was 20 years old of double lobar pneumonia and met Jesus Christ and said he was all of. But George, I have to wonder, I'm doubting it because, when I found him, I got his telephone number from Howard Storm, who wrote My Descent into Death. Now, how did I find Howard Storm's number? Because in the leaflet of the book, it says he was a pastor at a church in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I just called the church and asked to speak to him, and he was there. He gave me his. When I called Dr. George C. Ritchie, I did not feel any love exuding from him to me. No, in fact, his tone of voice was cold. He was like a morgue slab to me. Cold. I remember one time I called Unitarian Universalist Church and spoke to him, and he was cold, just like Dr. George C. Ritchie was. And the Unitarians are wrong because they do not believe Jesus is God. So they're wrong. And so I had to wonder about Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. I told him I wanted to get the book released. He did not, as much as he recommended this book to literally hundreds of his patients, he did not love me enough to ask for my address to mail me a copy of release. He had one foot in the grave. He would die 5 years later. He did not care beans about me, Dr. George C. Ritchie, and if I had not known about Jesus already, what I knew, he would have turned me off totally from Christianity. He's dead now. I hope Jesus brings to his face what he did to me, his unloving attitude to me, and he had an inside track to God. That is, if he met the true Christ, if he met the real Jesus, not the counterfeit angel of light. I'm angry. These preachers who know Jesus Christ blowing me up, not loving me, I'm angry. I hope they have hell to pay when they stand before Jesus on Judgment Day for their unloving behavior towards me. My soul cries out to God for justice, for retribution, to the way these people have shown me love, absolutely no love. They don't waste time with me. Now who is George Ritchie? Trust me, I'm gonna read this whole damn book. I'm gonna read it. I won this book back in 2003. Dr. George G. Ritchie would not lift a finger to help me get a copy. I asked him, where did they sell it? He couldn't even name me a store that sold it. Hold on. Okay. This is Dr. George C. Ritchie. Now, for a man who met the Jesus Christ and said Jesus loved him unconditionally, you would expect this man to exude love. But listen to this. Listen to him.
What happened to you?
Well, I was in the Army. I was 20 years of age, and I was pronounced dead from double lobar pneumonia. They know that I was dead 9.5 minutes because he told the ward boy to take me to the morgue, but the ward boy thought he saw something move, so he asked him to come back and check me over, and he told him I was just as dead the second time as I was the first. And then he did give a shot of adrenaline directly into the heart, and 4 days later I became newly conscious again.
What happened during those 9 minutes?
Listen. He's asked the question. Listen to his response. You can feel the irritation in his voice. Well, that's why that's why I've read this book.
Who did you see? What happened?
John, this is why I've written this book.
Yes.
I met the Christ because I was told to stand up. You're in the presence.
Doesn't sound very loving, does it? I hope I'm wrong, but I love these men. They sure did not show any of the love of Christ to me.
I've written this book.
Yes.
I met.
Who did you see? What happened?
John, this is why I've written this book.
Yes.
John, this is why I've written this book. Isn't there a more loving way to answer her fucking freaking question?
I met the Christ because I was told to stand up. You're in the presence of the Son of God. He came into my room. And he conducted me through 4 different realms of life after death. He really brought out 3 things that changed my life, and I think was a major reason he told me I had to come back.
Look how ugly I
You
am.
didn't want to come back.
No, I absolutely did not.
What are the 3 things?
All right, the first thing, can you imagine being in the room with somebody who knows every single minute detail of your life
No.
and totally accepts you and totally loves you? And that's the first wonderful thing. I found out that the one person I'd been always taught to judge so quick and dead was in the loving department instead of the judging department. The next thing that he showed me by taking me through 4 different realms of life after death is that you and my Father doesn't sit in any place. The type of life we live here determines where we're going.
Okay, enough of this. Let's look at another video of him.
I suddenly realized that body is dead. And I'm too young to die. I'm only 20 years of age. And then all of a sudden I thought the light at the head end of the room was getting brighter.
I one time called Dr. George C. Ritchie. And the first time I called him was 2002. Because I read this book by him. Return from Mamar. My grandma Clavin turned me onto this book back in 1986, 1987. In 1995, and I read it again in 1995, 1994. This book so blessed me, filled me with peace. I wished I could talk to this author even back then. Well, when I got his telephone number, I called him and told him, hey, when I get a car, can I come see you and talk to you? He's like, I'm not a psychiatrist anymore. I didn't want to keep seeing him as a patient. I wanted to see him as a person, a fellow human being. And he would not let me. This man who had an inside track to God, Jesus Christ, who said Jesus loved him unconditionally, could not show me one scintilla of unconditional love. Why? Because I was not, had I been one of his colleagues, unbelieving infidel colleagues he worked with in his young years, would he have let them? A family member? If this guy met the true Jesus Christ, why did it make a difference, a real difference in his life? Hello? Hey, Payne. I'm at home. We didn't have it tonight. We're not going to have it till the 3rd of January.
That's what I figured. I figured they would have called it off, all was family.
Yeah.
I was thinking about calling to tell me why I had to go down to Denver for a doctor's appointment. Back to about 7:25 to Kinston. Said that it was too late to go over there.
Loved him. Oh, okay. Yep. No. Sure. Okay. When are they gonna be here? Thank you. Okay, I'll be waiting for you. Bye. Okay, bye. Sorry for that interruption, my friend. Well, let me go back to. Needless to say, George G. Ritchie showed me low love. When I first called him, even before that, I told him I appreciated the book, Return from Tomorrow. He's like, oh, that's not my book. Elizabeth Sherrill, his co-writer, interjected her theology into the book. If I wanted to know what really happened, I needed to read my Order to Return, My Life After Dying. His near-death experience and the effects it had upon his life, and as written in Return from Tomorrow, moved me profoundly. Made me want to love Jesus more. But when I read his account right here, it sounds like crap. No love. He curses in the book. He uses the word bullshit in his book. This book, the character Dr. George Ritchie does not exude love in his book, nor does his Jesus exude love. His Jesus sounds like a New Age counterfeit angel of light, but the Jesus in here sounds like, and the love exuded from this book. So I was wrecked. But I tried to get him. All I wanted him to do was give me a copy of release, and he was unwilling to do that. If I did not know Jesus personally, people like Howard Storm, I've talked to him before. He had a near-death experience and met Jesus, and said Jesus was loving. But Howard Storm writes me off because I'm too hard a case to handle. Because I'm too rough. My questions are too hard to answer. He thinks I'm faking it. If their Jesus is real, why does their Jesus tell him I'm really searching for the truth, not trying to give them the third degree, if their Jesus that they met was real? Now, to make the counterfeit Christ, I can understand that. But Howard Storm, he will not answer my emails anymore. When I tried to call him on the phone, his voice was cold, utterly devoid of love. Like George C. Richards, Dr. George G. Richards, and like that Unitarian Universalist preacher I called back in 1989. One time I called George Ritchie, and I asked, is this George G. Ritchie? He's like, Dr. George G. Ritchie. Yeah. Some love. Like I said, if I did not know Jesus, these two men would have turned me off to Christianity. Ironic, because they supposedly met the Jesus Christ and they both allegedly have an inside track to God, and they could not pass. Jesus said, "Who much is given, much is required." They should have to spend sleepless nights helping other people, many sleepless nights. They should have a hard life, helping others, like John Wesley. These two men, in his book, he lives in a big, nice ass house on the Chesapeake Bay. Big, rich house. I wonder where he got the money from. Rich. This guy's rich. Dr. George. I wonder if people who couldn't pay him as a psychiatrist, if he dropped them. oh, I can't talk to you. If you can't pay me, I can't talk to you. When men's eternal souls are at stake, then he refused to talk to them and help them because they couldn't pay. Man, I personally believe near-death experiences are bullshit. I don't believe in it. I believe in Jesus and the Bible, just barely. I'm hanging on for dear life to keep believing. But near-death experiences, I don't believe in them. Near-death experiences, I did a video up here explaining what they are. But near-death experiences are not spiritual experiences. They're dying experiences. Near-death experiences are bullshit. I don't believe in them. Even if I had a near-death experience, I would doubt whether it was real or not.